Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Today I want to take you on a journey around the world, and it starts in a fairly unexpected place. So you heard from Kara that I am a global humanitarian, so you're probably expecting like the deserts of Arabia or some remote jungle, but no, we're going to start this journey in Las Vegas. So, the Vegas that you and I think of is the Strip. It's the lights, the casinos, gambling, indulgence. But there's another side of Vegas, one that you've probably never heard of before. You see, underneath the Las Vegas Strip, there are 300 miles of flood channels. And in those flood channels, the homeless live. Underground. They have no running water, they have no electricity, there's no barriers to the outside elements. A couple times a year, when it rains in Vegas, these flood channels do what they were built to do. They rush the rainwater out of the city at speeds of 30 miles per hour out into the desert. But when those flood rains happen, they wash away anything that the homeless have accumulated over the course of the year. And occasionally, a homeless person gets caught in those floods. If you read the local newspaper in Vegas, you'll find that there are drownings in the underground flood channels. I first heard about these channels from a local journalist named Matt O'Brien. And I couldn't understand that if someone was homeless, why would they choose to live underground? So I went to Vegas to see if Matt would take me into the tunnels, and he did. You can see in the photo here, Matt is standing up, and I'm sitting in this little fold-out chair here. Matt introduced me to a friend he had made in the tunnels, which was a homeless man named Billy. So now Billy had been homeless for 20 years. He was a veteran. He served in the US Army and became homeless upon returning from overseas. He was sober. He didn't smoke, drink, do any sort of drugs. Billy became estranged with his family when he became homeless, and he was willing to share his story. So now, if you guys have ever had the desire to sit down with a homeless person and ask them real questions and get raw, honest answers, this was the opportunity. So I interviewed Billy. I asked him, how much money do you make holding that sign? And what does your family think about you being homeless? Why don't you get a job? When's the last time you showered? You know, all the questions that run through our mind when we see a homeless person. At the end of the interview, I asked Billy if he could have one thing in the world, anything, what would it be? And his answer will surprise you. I want to play you a quick clip of my time in Vegas. It's narrated by Matt, the journalist, and at the end, you'll hear Billy's answer to my question.
There are 300 miles of underground flood channels in Las Vegas, and hundreds of people live in these tunnels. I think it's the contrast, the gambling cathedrals of the Strip, and then right down here, you have people living on a cardboard mat in this black and gray underworld. I've become good friends with a lot of the people down there, and Billy is among those.
How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm breathing.
That's good. Breathing's
I'm
good.
standing.
He's just a funny guy. He's caring. He's honest.
But this is where I sleep. This is a cot. It ain't much, but it sure as does beat sleeping on the rocks. First night I was homeless, I wrapped up in bubble paper. I was freezing my ass off. At one time, the most I've ever went is 7 days with nothing to eat. I fought for you, and I got to stand here with a sign that says, so you'll give me something so I don't have to starve tonight or go dig in a damn dumpster. I'd love to hold my kids before I die. I'd love to be able to hold my grandkids before I die. That's what I want.
I would love to hold my kids before I die. I would love to hold my grandkids before I die. It gave me goosebumps when I heard it, and it still does today. You see, Billy reminded me that we are all human. Beneath the judgments and the labels, beneath the titles that we have, that we even impose on ourselves, deep down, we're all human. We have the same human desires. And today I'm here to speak to the human that's inside of you, same as the one inside of me and the one inside of Billy. You see, it's my job to travel the world and tell stories of our humanity. I am a documentary filmmaker and a humanitarian advocate. I travel to remote places around the world and I document my personal experience with people living in poverty. I publish my films online and I use them to raise awareness for humanitarian issues, but also to bring direct, real help to people in need. I love my job. I am 33 years old and I've been to 51 countries around the world. Sometimes I do kind of feel like a female Indiana Jones, but I'll take it. But my job allows me to stand face to face with people that are facing true hardship, facing real adversity, and show compassion towards them. And I believe that caring about other people is the greatest gift that you can give to the world. That's the biggest impact that you can have. And when I share my work, it elicits this evaluation in other people's lives about the impact that they're making. I bet you're wondering right now, what's the impact that I've made? How much do I reach out and really touch the people around me? How much do I dig deep and find the human inside of the people I interact with? It's not easy. It's hard to make an impact. Most people feel like they really want to do something great with their life. But, there's always a but. But they don't have enough time. They don't have any time to volunteer. They don't have any money. They don't have any money to give to charity. Maybe they don't know the cause that speaks to them. I get that a lot. I don't know what I want to do to help someone. I just need to have that cause come to me. I call those people the don't have people. Then there's the doubting of the value of compassion people. The people that say, sure, Mallory, yes, we can care about people, we can be a nice person, but compassion doesn't make a poor man rich. And compassion doesn't heal a sick person. Compassion isn't enough to make an impact in the world. Then you have the people who went into a career because they wanted to make a difference. These are the teachers that wanted to educate our youth, the lawyers that wanted to fight for justice, the healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses that wanted to help others. So often they went into this profession to help people, but the problem is that when you see trauma over and over all the time, you get used to it. You know, I remember the first time I saw a woman carrying water on her head. I wanted to rush over to this woman, take that yellow jug from her head, help her carry that weight. That thing is heavy. Who knows how long she's carrying that back to her hut? But now, working in social impact for 8 years, I've seen thousands of women carrying water on their head, and honestly, you start to get used to it. And lastly, there's the me versus the world people. People that say, Mallory, there's 3 billion people on our planet that live on less than $1 a day. They live like this woman in Honduras. And I am one person. I'm one individual. What's the difference that I'm really gonna make? I look at you guys. You work in the healthcare industry. It's one of the largest industries in our country. The insurance industry is huge, and you're just one tiny person in this web of insurance plans and healthcare systems and hospitals, and every patient has different needs. And what's the difference that you are really gonna make? But I'm here to tell you, it's more than you think. That compassion and empathy, it will take you further than you think it will. There is a ripple effect to kindness. And when you engage in a small level with empathy and compassion, you have no idea the ending results and the impact that you're going to make. I've seen miracles happen in my work from interacting with just this little bit of kindness. So today we're going to talk about empathy. So first, I just want to define it real quick. So what is empathy? Empathy is feeling with someone else. It's different than sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorrow or pity for someone. Empathy is trying to understand from their perspective, putting yourself in their shoes. It used to be thought that empathy was an inherent trait and then a personality trait, that some people are more empathetic than others. So there's also groups of people that are more empathetic, like women tend to be more empathetic than men. Nurses tend to be more empathetic than debt collectors. So think of yourself right now on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you fall on empathy? Let's say a 1, you're closed off to the world and you don't care about anyone. And a 10 is that you walk around hugging everyone. So rank yourself. What number do you give yourself? And my goal today is that after my presentation, you'll be 1 notch higher. You'll be 1 level more empathetic. You see, it's now known that empathy, it's not a personality trait. It is a skill set. And that you can learn empathy, you can teach empathy, and you can practice being empathetic. I had a great teacher of empathy, the best teacher, and it started in my childhood. My teacher was my younger brother, Derek. So Derek was born when I was a few months shy of 3 years old. That's me in the photo. I had curly blonde hair at the time. And I was very excited to have a younger brother. I was the second child. I had an older sister, and I wanted a younger brother. And I was too young to realize that my brother came into the world too soon. He was born 3 months premature. His birth weight was 2 pounds, 5 ounces. And when he arrived, the first breath of air he took, it burst his blood vessels in his brain, killing his brain cells. And he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. He was a quadriplegic, and he had epilepsy. My parents were fiercely dedicated to his treatment. They tried every form of therapy, every type of drug, every experimental test they could get him in. They really wanted to provide the best life they could for their son. But for me, I wasn't so concerned with his treatment. For me, he was just my brother. I loved him. I thought he was cute. I used to dress him up, play dress up with him. I took him sledding. I used to make him wear these funny hats all the time because I was obsessed with hats when I was young. I mean, look at that flower hat. That is stylish. I loved my brother. And we grew up together. We even went through school together. My parents petitioned for my brother to be included into regular classrooms. So he was not in special ed. He followed in my sister and my footsteps, and he had all the same teachers that we did. But as I got older, I started to understand the differences between my life and my brother's. You see, we were born into the exact same household with the same 2 wonderful parents. We were raised at the same income level. We went to the same school district. We had the exact same teachers, and we should have had the same opportunities in life. But we didn't. Not by any stretch of the imagination. See, my brother didn't walk. He didn't talk. He couldn't tell his mom that he loved her. He would never have a girlfriend. He would never have a job. He would never even be invited to a friend's house. I realized I can't judge someone based on their circumstance, because so often your external circumstance is out of your control. I learned this at such a young age, and it really resonated with me. But the greatest lessons I learned of empathy were not comparing my life to my brother's. It was watching the way that other people treated Derek. Why was it that some students would push his wheelchair down the hallway in between classes at school, while other students were annoyed that he was in their class? And why is it that when my family went to a park, some toddlers would pick a wildflower and bring it over to the boy in the wheelchair, while other toddlers would point and cry and run away because they didn't understand? Why is it that some doctors treated my brother? They went above and beyond trying to find treatment plans that would help him, while there were lists of doctors that refused to see him because they didn't want the liability? I realized that we have a choice in the way that we treat other people. And when someone else is in need, more gravity lies in our decision. You think about your coworkers. If you get along with someone well and you work well together with them, your daily interactions with them, they don't matter that much because you already have a good rapport. There isn't a lot of urgency there. There's not a lot of need. But think about when someone new joins the team, when they know nothing, when they need to be trained. That's when you can really reach out. That's when you have an opportunity to make an impact. When someone is in need, that's your moment to show compassion and empathy. So the lessons from my brother and my lessons of empathy, they paved who I am as a person. And they made me want to do something with my life where I could help other people. So I became a humanitarian filmmaker. And I spent my 20s traveling the world, documenting causes all over the world. But as this is Women's History Month, I want to share with you the moment that I fell in love with women's empowerment, which is solely what I focus on now in my humanitarian work. It happened when I turned 30. You see, I was approaching my 30th birthday, and I wanted to do something really cool to celebrate. So I reached out to my friend Melanie, who runs a nonprofit in Ethiopia. That's my favorite country, as Kara mentioned in the opening, and this is why. So I asked Melanie, what did the people in this village where she works need? The village is called Chapa. And she said, well, the people, they need jobs. You see, Chapa is kind of like off the grid, and there are no businesses, there's no factories, there's nowhere that's hiring anyone. This is just a native group of people, and they live off the land. They hunt and gather for food, they build their own houses, they mostly work in agriculture, but it's mostly for the men. And the women of Chapa were begging to work. They wanted to earn an income. And so Melanie wanted to start an entrepreneurship program where she would teach women how to start their own businesses. Now, if any of you have ever worked in humanitarian aid or in any international poverty, many people are entrepreneurs. You know, they start their own little shop, my own little tortilla stand, or I'm gonna go door to door and sell this, because they can rely on themselves and they don't need a lot of startup capital. And so she wanted to start an entrepreneurship program, and I asked her, so how many women do you think would be ready to go through the first cohort of this program if you could get it funded? She said, we have 30 women that are ready to go. So I said, there is my sign. 30 women in Ethiopia. I am turning 30. I want to raise $30,000 on my birthday to help and give every woman a $1,000 business loan. So, great plan, but I had never done that before. Raise $30,000 on my birthday. So I decided that I wouldn't go at it alone. I asked 30 of my friends to sign up as teammates and fundraise with me online. We would do this through crowdfunding, so they could reach out to their friends and family and ask everyone to kick in a little bit of money. I knew it was kind of a stretch of an ask, because I understand that people hate asking other people for money. Nobody likes to do that. People generally don't like to do that even on their own birthday, let alone on my birthday. And by the way, I wasn't going to be here. I would be in Ethiopia filming with the women. Ethiopia is a country you probably can't point out on a map, and you probably have never showed much interest in before. But will you be on my team? And surprisingly, 30 women said yes. They signed up so fast, all of my friends. I realized that people really want to give back. So often they just don't know what to do, and they need someone to lay the path out for them. So I gave each of the women a $500 goal. I said, if you can raise $500, that's half of what I need to give these women the business loan, and I'll raise the other 500. And so I paired each woman with an Ethiopian woman. So my friend Diana, she was supporting an Ethiopian woman named Wade in the top corner. And my friend Aylin, she was supporting an Ethiopian woman named Burka. And on the day of my 30th birthday, it went live. And the women all surpassed their $500 goal. This is what my 30th birthday looked like. I published a CrowdRise fundraiser to raise $30,000 in 24 hours to provide 30 jobs. It's fundraiser day, the donations are coming in, I'm so excited. We're about to tell the women that they can start working today. Hey, I just want to say thank you so much for donating. I'm here with the women and we're about to start their businesses. And we surpassed our $30,000 goal. Thank you so much for donating to help these 30 women. Their new jobs will provide a sustainable source of income, which will empower them to truly transform their lives. Best birthday ever. So this was me on my birthday. The women in Ethiopia baked me a cake. I don't know if any of you have ever had Ethiopian food, but it's that really flat bread. It's called injera, and then all these little toppings are in the center, and you kind of pull off the bread and dip it in the toppings. So they don't have yeast in their culture, so I have no idea how they baked me this Western birthday cake, but they did. It tasted a little off, but it was very cute that they tried. But I raised almost $42,000 in 24 hours to help the women in Ethiopia. I became amazed with women around the world and how hard they were working and how excited they were to get these loans. And it also taught me something about making an impact. You see, I used to think if I wanted to make an impact in the world, if I wanted to be a leader in this space, I would need to create change myself. I would need to find the solution and blaze forward with enthusiasm, with best practices, so that other people can follow suit. But I realized that leadership is not about creating the change yourself. It's about empowering other people to create change. If I wanted to help these women on my 30th birthday, I didn't need to do it all myself. I just needed to empower my 30 women at home and their friends and their families and their coworkers to give back. I learned that leadership is about being a catalyst for change. You don't have to do it all yourself. And so right now, I want to ask you guys a question. I want you to think of a specific person in your life that is in need. It could be a family member that's going through a rough time. It could be a neighbor who is diagnosed with cancer. Maybe a friend recently lost their job. Think of that one person and envision them in your mind. And now instead of you reaching out to solve their problem, who could you ask to do it for you? Who could you bring into the fold? Maybe you could ask your kids. Maybe you could rally your kids to help someone else. Maybe your coworkers. Maybe all of your coworkers could band together. Maybe you go to an expert, someone more qualified than you to solve the problem. Who is that one person that you would help right now if you could? And who's the person you would ask to help? Keep those two people in your mind. So at this point in my life, I'm 30 years old and I'm on my women empowerment train. And I wanted to keep the momentum of my birthday moving. So I decided that I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to help more women around the world. I wanted to share all these lessons I'd learned about empathy, about fundraising, about empowering others and connecting others. And so I thought about my root word, the core of what I do, which is empathy. Empathy is best described by this quote: "Don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes." We've all heard this. It's an American proverb. You may not know that this actually originated in our Native American tribes, in the Cherokee tribe. Don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. So what if I could take this famous quote we've all heard a million times and turn it from a literary expression into something real? What if I could literally walk a mile in someone else's shoes? I could do what I do best, travel to impoverished women around the world and film myself walking a mile in their shoes. I can post it online for my friends and family back home to watch with a crowdfunding campaign so that people could, through YouTube, through my eyes, walk in these women's shoes and then donate directly to help her. Not only would it share the needs and the issues that women are facing all around our globe, but it would also show the solutions. All of the nonprofits that are working to give women the skills they need to better their lives. Small business loans, training, support when they're breaking through a societal stigma. All of the money donated would be donated to these women's nonprofits. And I didn't want to walk just 1 mile. I thought, why not go big with it? I will walk a marathon. 26 miles, 26 women, 26 different countries, benefiting 26 different charities. We'll see how far empathy can really go. So I'd like to share the first few miles with you guys. Mile 1 was in Tanzania, where I walked with a woman named Elizabeth. Watch Elizabeth's story now. Look at that smile! She's the best.
Wow.
Punga punga.
When you first meet Elizabeth, right away you can tell this is a woman with some fire in her.
Maisha kwa moyo wangu ninao tamani sana. Natamani niwe juu sana.
She's an entrepreneur. She started her own business. But the crazy part is that her business actually solves a community health crisis. Every day, 3 billion people cook their food on an open air flame, inhaling toxic smoke. I mean, they're trying to provide sustenance for their family, and instead, they're killing themselves.
Cooking over open fires is actually one of the largest but least known killers in the world. Over 4 million people die a year in developing nations from cooking over open fires.
I immediately want to get out of this room, and I can't imagine having to cook 3 meals a day here. Cooking that way is the equivalent of inhaling 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Every day.
Moshi unaasiri sana. Inaasiri sana, yani tuseme watu wengi wanaugua sana ugonjwa wa kifua.
I learned that the black carbon emissions from cooking over open flame add up to more pollution than all of the cars and trucks in the world combined. I can't believe that such a huge environmental issue stems from cooking rice and beans. Elizabeth and other women in Mwanza have become stove masons, where they hand make stoves and then they sell them at the market at affordable prices to families in need. This way, a family that gets a stove now has a safe, energy-efficient way to cook their food. I'm cooking more here than I do at home.
Here in Tanzania, we find entrepreneurs and we teach them skills and marketing and financial training so that they can become more profitable stove masons. That's everything from how to find the right materials, how to build a better stove, and then how to actually go out and sell it more efficiently.
When Elizabeth is making the stoves, you can see she has such skill and she takes such care in every move because this little pottery piece is going to drastically change someone's life. So it's portable, lightweight, move it outside, 50% less charcoal costs, so it's energy efficient, it's cost efficient. It's an incredible solution to this huge problem, and it's just a little stove. The stoves are an entrepreneurial solution, and Elizabeth is working for her own income.
It's not a handout, it feels more of an empowerment and investment in this person, and seeing them thrive makes us know that we're on the right track.
Mfano kama leo naweza nikabodi hata majiko 10. Baada ya kuanza kutengeneza majiko, nikaona maisha yangu yameanza kubadilika, familia ikaanza kupata nafuu, watoto nikaanza kusomesha kila kitu.
We want to get more female entrepreneurs in, and we want to also see them bringing up other entrepreneurs under them and training more people, and it really being a chain of success.
Future stove mason right here. I mean, there's a nonprofit run by women that's empowering women like Elizabeth to make stoves that help other women sell stoves that in the end are helping women that are cooking for their family.
Women in particular tend to be at the bottom of the economic chain, so by focusing on women, we can actually help lift up the entire community. We see greater return on investment when we invest in women.
I mean, she is a hard-working, dedicated woman who's out there every day making stoves and selling stoves and educating other women.
Najisikia vizuri mno, yani najisikia amani. Hapa nilipo mwili yani unalaa tu yani, na mimi nitajitahidi, nitawashauri wanawake wenzangu. Nitajitahidi sana kuishauri Tanzania.
So here's what I'm asking. You have the ability to help Elizabeth and other women in Mwanza. $20 from you gets a stove into the hands of a family that truly needs it. Buy a stove! Please buy a stove. Buy 2 stoves, buy 10 stoves. It's just $20 and it will truly change someone's life. Please donate. It's not one woman for herself, it's one woman for all women.
Na Mungu awabariki sana. Yaani mimi natoa kwa niaba ya kikundi pamoja na jamii yote. Karibuni tena Mwanza.
So Elizabeth's story is impressive for many reasons. The setup of it is beautiful. You see, the nonprofit called the Adventure Project, they empower Elizabeth to have her own stove business. That way she can earn an income, she can provide a better life for her family. But at the same time, she's working to help this community health crisis. I don't know about you, but I didn't know about the health effects of cooking over open flame, that it's equivalent to inhaling 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and you're just cooking for your family. You see, the most amazing part about Elizabeth to me is the beginning and the end of the video. And I don't know if you could read those subtitles, especially on the live stream. But in the beginning, she said, "The life that my heart desires, I want to be on top." And at the end, she's thanking me on behalf of her tribe and her community and all of Tanzania. You see, Elizabeth is not working for the $20 sale of a stove. She's not in that center column working for her own income to better her own family. Of course, that's what she does on a day-to-day basis, but in her heart, she's working for the community. She's helping fight this health crisis. Her life looks a lot like your guys. You are hired to do a job, to earn your own income, to support yourself and your family. But you're also working in the healthcare industry to provide services to our nation. It's so similar to Elizabeth. And I ask you, when you go to work every day, are you in that middle column? Are you working your task for your paycheck at the end of the day, or are you standing for something so much greater? Elizabeth taught me you need to stand for something greater than yourself. Now, she is one woman that lives in a small village that walks to work every day and talks about working for the better health of Tanzania. What is something greater that you can stand for? You know, when you start to stand for something greater, when you start to say that I'm here to work for the global empowerment of women, that's what I work for, all of a sudden, more things start to align with my mission. You know, if I was only going to do women in Rwanda, I would see Elizabeth as not being in my wheelhouse, really. That's not what I do. But when you stand for something larger, all of a sudden, so many more opportunities for you to step up are relevant in your life. You have to stand for something greater than yourself. Mile 2 was in my hometown of Detroit. You see, as much as I love to travel the world, and I do love to travel, I also love to give back in our own country, and especially in my hometown. I was born and raised in Detroit, and it's a city that truly understands hardship. Now, when you think of poverty in the US, most people think of homelessness. And the thing that homeless people really need, it's not a home, it's a job. Homeless people really need a job. And there's a great nonprofit in Detroit called the Empowerment Plan. So the Empowerment Plan hires single parents out of Detroit homeless shelters. So people that are living in the shelter that need the job, they provide them that job. They teach them how to sew, and then these employees sew winter coats that transform into sleeping bags that are then given away for free to the homeless community. It's a very similar setup to Elizabeth's story, where someone's hired to earn an income to improve their own standard of living, but then also to give back to the community at large, to serve the people that are struggling from the own problem they're facing. The Empowerment Plan hopes to not only give coats that transform into sleeping bags away to the homeless, but to give people a way that they don't need to be homeless anymore, to give them a job. So, in mile 2, I walked with a woman named Ebony. You can see her right here. Now, Ebony fell into homelessness when she was 31 years old. She had a 2.5-year-old son. She was a working mom, lost her job, and on the same night, her boyfriend kicked her out of the house. And on a cold February evening, she grabbed her son and made the humiliating walk to a local shelter to ask if they had an open bed. She'd never been in a homeless shelter before. She didn't grow up in homelessness. She just found herself in this horrible position. So Ebony was hired into the Empowerment Plan, and she was so excited. She wanted to get her and her son out of that shelter. 7 months after working, she was able to save enough money to buy her own home and to move her and her son out of the shelter. But the part I love about Ebony, every person's got their own little story. So I want to ask you guys how long your commute is going to work every day. So raise your hand if it's under a half an hour to get into work. Okay. Anybody over a half an hour, between a half an hour and an hour? A couple of you. Anyone over an hour? No, okay. I work from home, so my commute is like down my stairs 5 minutes, if that. Ebony, she rode the public bus from the homeless shelter to the Empowerment Plan's warehouse for 2.5 hours each way. Every day, 5 days a week. She worked an 8-hour shift. She rode 5 hours on public transportation to make it to that job on time. Incredible. I would love if you could just watch a short clip so you can meet this woman and admire her hustle. When she was hired into the empowerment plan, Ebony hustled. I mean, she hustled.
And I think I cried for a couple of days, but then I got over it. Got up and went to work.
It's a product that's made to help fight homelessness, but it's created by people that were formerly homeless.
I consider it to be more than just a job. I'm doing something that means something.
It's so backwards that people look down on the homeless when really they're the ones that need the most love. And Ebony proves that just one simple opportunity can change everything.
I think that I have reached my full potential here, and I am ready to show everybody how the empowerment plan has empowered me.
Please join me, and please donate. I asked Ebony what she listened to on those bus rides, like, what do you do for 2.5 hours? And she said she listened to motivational speeches on YouTube by Tony Robbins to get up, go to work, and improve your life. And now the empowerment plan, they've hired 80 single parents out of Detroit homeless shelters, and 100% of them are no longer homeless. 100% of the people they've hired have their own home, and many have moved on to a more stable corporate job. Ebony taught me, don't underestimate people. We underestimate so many people. We underestimate our family members, our spouses. We underestimate our coworkers. We think the person that doesn't get it is just never gonna get it. The person that we underestimate the most is ourselves. I love this quote. It says, people overestimate what they can do in a single day and underestimate what they can do in their whole lives. It's technically an anonymous quote, but it's debated if Bill Gates said it. So I put Bill's name on the bottom because if I said something that profound, I would want credit for it. But it's so true. We overestimate our day-to-day. We don't do everything on our to-do list. We're 17 emails behind. We didn't grocery shop organic today. We didn't get to our laundry, and we get down on ourselves for that. We lower our life goals because we're 17 emails behind. We underestimate what we can do in the world, and I'm telling you that you can do more than you think you can. You can set bigger goals. You can make an impact so much larger than where you've set your expectations for yourself. The last mile I want to share with you today is mile number 3. It's in Guatemala, and I walked with a woman named Laura. So Laura lives in a village called San Marcos La Laguna. It's one of those cool places that it's a beautiful destination. It's a tourist destination, but then right next door to the tourist destination is a local community that lives in poverty. Laura was raised in that community. She was expected to get married young, have children, spend her life making tortillas to feed her kids because tortillas are cheap to make, but they're not very nutritious. Her kids would grow up eating tortillas and live in the same community and continue the cycle of poverty. But Laura and the other women in her community, they didn't want to live that way anymore. They said, if we know how to make tortillas, we can learn how to cook food that Westerners would eat. And we can learn how to open a restaurant. And so a group of 9 women band together to open a restaurant to serve food to the tourists that were visiting town. They earned an income for themselves that they'd never earned before. But the genius part is that they used the profits from the restaurant to fund a nonprofit feeding program. They wanted their community members that were malnourished, that were only eating tortillas, to be able to eat that restaurant food. So 100% of the profits are donated to give away free meals within their own community. This is an incredibly progressive group of Indigenous women. And I want you to meet Laura right now. Laura is this beautiful Guatemalan woman who is truly progressive. And she sees opportunity and she takes it. I kind of how these women have built an incredibly sustainable system, from how to cook in the kitchen to serving customers to managing the books of a restaurant, yet at the same time cook for the community and provide free meals to those that can't afford it.
Yo quiero vivir mejor, sobre todo quiero ayudar.
To be in a small village in Guatemala and hear women talking about a social enterprise and female empowerment, it's incredibly encouraging to know that if it's happening here, even on a small level, it's happening everywhere.
Y las esperanzas en mí, nunca pierdo la fe en seguir luchando.
Please join me in supporting Laura and all of these incredible women.
Estamos felices, súper felices y maravillosos con todos ustedes. Gracias.
Please donate. So Laura reminded me to elevate your path. You don't have to give it all up. Laura didn't leave her community. She still lives there. She still wears her traditional clothing, but she elevated the path that she was already on. What can you guys do to elevate your path? You know, when a lot of people hear me talk, they start to get like super curious about my personal life. And they ask, is it dangerous when you travel? And how does your family feel? Are you in a relationship? How do you maintain a relationship when you're traveling all the time? And I know that in their head, they're trying to figure out how they can integrate this into their life. You know, how can they quit their job and do what I do? But you don't have to go travel to Africa to make a difference. You don't have to be a globe-trotting humanitarian. You can elevate the path that you are already on just by interacting with the people around you, by embracing them, by going into interactions with this open heart, with empathy. You'll find opportunities all around you to help people in need. Now, if you want to watch any of the miles of my marathon, you can go onto my website. It's travelmal.com. I showed you the first 3, but there are 3 more miles live, and I continually launch new miles every month. So mile 7 is coming out later this month. It's in India. You see, Walk a Mile, it tells these 26 individual stories of incredible charities, incredible women, and it raises money to directly help them. But it stands for something much larger. You see, when I walk into these women's shoes, their stories start to feel familiar. You can tell. They kind of mimic each other. Even though these women live all around the world in different cultures and different backgrounds, facing different problems. And their stories are relevant in my life. They transfer into your life, and you can see yourself in their position. You realize that empathy unites people. It shows us our commonalities and the similarities that we all have. And I wanted the women to feel like they were part of this big global marathon. Even though they may never meet each other, these 26 stories are standing for women worldwide. So I wanted to give them all something so they would feel connected to one another, even though Elizabeth in Tanzania, who's never left her village, will probably never meet Laura in Guatemala, who's never left her village. So I made 26 identical necklaces, and I give a necklace to each woman when I walk with her. It's my way of expressing gratitude for her to be vulnerable, especially on camera, to a foreign person, and share her story, and do so on behalf of women in her community. The nonprofits that are the beneficiaries help all of the women. It doesn't just go to the one that's featured, but she shares her story to help other women in her position. I wear the 27th necklace, but my necklace is a little bit different. My necklace has 2 charms on it. One, the globe for the women, and one is a footprint for my brother. You see, I loved my brother's feet. People that are in wheelchairs, they have the softest feet because they don't get calluses, blisters, they're not jamming their feet into high heels. Loved my brother's soft feet. So I put his footprint on my necklace so he could walk around the world with me. And my teacher of empathy could see the results of his lessons. But unfortunately, life doesn't always go as planned. And the day before Walk a Mile launched, my younger brother passed away. He was 29 years old. He was at home, normal day, typical Sunday, was at home with my mom, and he closed his eyes, and he never opened them again. Now, people always ask me, did I live big because my brother couldn't? You know, my brother never took one independent step in his entire life, and I am walking a marathon around the world. Did I go see everything he couldn't see? But that never sounded right to me. I don't live big because my brother couldn't. I live big because my brother taught me how to live. He taught me what was important in life. He taught me that if you show up with an open heart and you show compassion towards people, that's how you make an impact. My brother taught me everything I needed, and now, instead of him coming around the world with me, I walk in honor of him, in honor of the lessons that he taught me. So I want to end this with one last story. Now, you remember Billy, the father in Vegas. So I told you at the beginning that there's a ripple effect to kindness, that you can never anticipate the end results of your kind actions. And when I met Billy, I published his story online. I didn't know how to grant him his one wish because he had lost touch with his family. He became estranged. They didn't know where he was. He didn't know where they were. But I thought I could do something to help. And so I raised $15,000 through crowdfunding to buy Billy and his friends in the tunnels supplies they needed. Socks, bus cards, batteries, canned foods, warm clothes. I even got Billy dentures. After 20 years, he only had 4 teeth left in his mouth. You can see in the photo. And then I flew back to Detroit thinking I did a pretty good job, and I helped out this man. And then I received an email from a woman named Brittany. And it said, Mallory, I just watched a video on your YouTube channel about your time with the homeless people in the tunnels. If the man in your video is who I think he is, I'm his daughter. And it was true. Brittany was Billy's daughter. She hadn't seen her dad since she was 5 years old, and she was now 25. So I bought Billy a Greyhound bus ticket, and he rode the bus from Vegas to Houston, Texas, where Brittany lived. She got him a job. She got him a place to stay. And 4 years later, Billy is a whole new man. He is a hardworking Texas man. Billy just bought his first truck. He lives down the street from his entire family, where he sees his grandkids multiple times a week. And if you look on any of my Walk a Mile fundraisers, you will see the very first donor every time is Billy Richardson. It's Billy's way to pay it forward. He understands that if you give a little now, who knows what is possible. Billy calls me his guardian angel. He says that after 20 years on the streets, when he met me, his whole life changed. And although that's very flattering, and truly it is, I don't feel like I did that much. Billy had it in him the whole time. His daughter had it in her the whole time. I just showed up with an open heart. I showed compassion towards someone, and it lit the way. I ask you guys to do this. Go into every interaction with the people around you with an open heart. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to show compassion and don't judge them, and give them what they need to believe in themselves. Ask everyone behind you, everyone in your community to join you. You don't have to do it yourself. And miracles will happen. You have such an incredible ability to impact the world around you. Please go out and show your heart and make the impact that you want to make in the world. Thank you.